All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back. I had to do a podcast this week. I didn't do it last week. I promised y'all I would. Uh, I was on vacation and just never got around to it. With my family, I don't see them a lot, and it started like on Monday. I'm like, I'm not going to podcast today. Tuesday, I'm not going to podcast today. Then next thing you know, it's Thursday, and I'm like, well, too late now. So it always seems to sneak up on me. I chose not to do it last week. And then obviously, as you can see, no James today. I honestly didn't even ask him to come on the podcast. I'm going to try to get him on. But yeah, and I've actually let this week slip. I meant to do two podcasts this week and start doing two, but I was flying back from vacation on Sunday. A flight I had to get up at 4:34. Actually, probably closer to 4 a.m. For a 6:30 flight. Then I was just exhausted all Sunday, didn't want to do it. And then Monday, had some stuff going on. And then Tuesday, I was really exhausted. So now it's Wednesday night, and I'm doing a podcast. So hopefully starting this week, now that I'm back in my groove of going to work and, having weekends off and so on, I can get back to podcasting. So we had a crazy week 3 of football in the NFL. I'm going to start with the NFL here. A crazy week 3. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm usually pretty good at picking games. This past weekend, let me pull it up, was one of my worst. I shouldn't say one of my worst, but subpar for me. So last week I was 7-9. James was 8-8. James actually. Let me pull up his. I have it all in a spreadsheet. Dead air. So James was 8-8. James has actually been at 8 wins, I guess you could, as I call them, all of this football season. He went 8-7-1 in week 1. He went 8-8 in week 2, 8-8 in week 3. Whereas I was 9-6, 10-6, and 7-9. So I dipped quite a bit. But anyway, a wild week 3. Let's start with the Thursday night game. Pittsburgh at Cleveland. I wondered if the last play of the game involved Pittsburgh, doing a bunch of laterals and ended up going into the end zone, and Cleveland hopped on it for a score. And I said to myself after watching, I'm like, I wonder if anyone had money on the game. I was like, well, Cleveland's going to win, win and cover regardless. But did that hit the over? And I believe it did. So I just always think that's funny when a play like that happens because people got money on the line. But overall, kind of an ugly game. I didn't watch a whole lot. Instead, what did we watch instead? I was with my mom. Was that right? No, I'm sorry, no. I was with my family, that's right. The week before was the Kansas City Chargers game. But Steelers-Browns, not a very entertaining game. Instead, I watched my West Virginia Mountaineers take on the Virginia Tech Hokies, battle for the Black Diamond Trophy. Not a very entertaining game. Pittsburgh struggled. Mitch Trubisky struggled. I think it's going to be more of the same from Pittsburgh. I would consider making a quarterback change if I were them, but I don't really see it getting a whole lot better for Pittsburgh than what it's been the last couple of weeks. As for the Browns, again, they keep picking up wins without Deshaun Watson. That's going to be huge at some point. They play a game this week. I like him in that one. I'll get to that here in a bit. But the more wins they rack up without Deshaun Watson, the better off they're going to be. So that was a big win for them, especially in the division. Houston at Chicago. Chicago won this game 23-20. I picked Houston. I'm not high on Chicago. I will say this. Chicago is playing well defensively. Matt Eberflus has that defense playing pretty well, especially against bad teams or in a monsoon like San Francisco was in week 1. But they're not that bad defensively. I got to give them credit there. However, Justin Fields remains pretty bad. I mean, I'm just going to tell it like it is. I don't dislike the guy, but he's playing poorly. He has 23 completions in 3 games, and I think he's only attempted 45 throws in 3 games. Most guys do 45 throws in 1 game. So Chicago clearly doesn't trust him. They do run the ball pretty well, though, and they managed to beat Houston. I picked Houston to win. So Houston's starting to look like Detroit from last year, in my opinion, where they're just going to lose a bunch of close games, and we keep saying, hey, you almost got it there. But yeah, I didn't watch the game, but it's 2 of the bottom feeders in the league. Chicago has to be the worst 2-1 team I've ever seen. Yeah, here's an important one. Las Vegas at Tennessee. I thought this was the game Las Vegas was going to figure it out. I feel like they have a better roster than the Titans. They definitely have more star power. But I had a feeling Tennessee was going to figure it out eventually. I just didn't think it was going to be this past week. Mike Vrabel's too good of a coach. They're too physical of a team. I knew the Titans were going to figure it out eventually. I just didn't think it was going to be this past week. And then as for the Raiders, I don't want to say it's panic time yet because, they played a good Chargers team, a healthy, good Chargers team in week 1. They played a good Kansas City team. No, not Kansas City. I'm sorry, they lost on a fluke kind of play to Arizona in week 2, and then they played a Tennessee team that was desperate on the road. So I'm giving the Raiders a little bit of slack here, but you're 0-3, and you really haven't been all that impressive. I'm not going to take a victory lap, although I did say my friend William sent me today a meme about how Devontae Adams is struggling and how saying we need to play better and all this stuff. And he's like, I bet you're really happy about this. I'm not. I don't have any ill will toward Devontae Adams. Sure, I would have liked to see him finish his career in Green Bay, but I hold no ill will to Devontae Adams. I will say this. I'm enjoying saying I told you so in regards to the Raiders. That was a team I didn't think was going to be as good as other people thought in the preseason. Sure, they added Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones, and they were a playoff team last year. But you got to remember, defensively, they still have a lot of holes, and then offensively, their O-line stinks, and they really didn't do much to improve it in the offseason. And then on top of that, Derek Carr is he's good, not great. And then they won a lot of close games last year. I know for sure they won, I think, 4 games in overtime. That kind of luck isn't going to transition to the next year. And then on top of that, you're breaking in a new head coach. I know Josh McDaniels has been a head coach before, but he might as well be a first-time head coach because he was only there for a year and a half. So I don't think it's quite panic time for Vegas. I will say if they lose this week, then it is officially panic time, and I will be all out, 100% out on the Raiders. Tennessee, big win. Little surprising, but big win. They needed that. So they stay alive. And honestly, the AFC South, not that impressive for the most part. Kansas City loses a tough one to Indianapolis. I didn't drop Kansas City in my power rankings. Indianapolis plays well at home. They have a good defense. They were desperate. I mean, they started 0-1-1. September is usually Frank Reich's worst month, but they battled and managed to hold Kansas City in check. So they really needed that one more than Kansas City, so it's hard to be too hard on the Chiefs. As for the Colts, cool. That's a big win for the Colts. I picked the Colts to win the AFC South. They're 1-1-1, so they're not in a horrible position. If they started 0-2-1, they would be in a really bad position. But 1-1-1 doesn't sound so bad. Bills Dolphins. I didn't watch this game. Let me check. I'd heard the time of possession on this game was ridiculous. So the Bills controlled the clock for 40 minutes and lost. That's hard to do. I will say this though. The Bills were another team. I had them at number 1 in my power rankings. I did not drop them because Miami looks to be really good. It was on the road in September. Humidity's a factor. Buffalo also had a slew of injuries on both sides of the ball, so I can't be too hard on the Bills. I think that's just the kind of thing that happens in the NFL. Even though I picked them to win, I think they'll be fine. Miami. Clearly better than I thought they'd be. I'm really impressed with what I've seen from Tua Tagovailoa, although he sustained an injury last week. They I don't know who created. I know the NFL creates the schedule, but I don't know who made it to where Miami gets Bill Belichick and the Bills in September in a humid month in Miami. But play this game. These two teams play again, I think, in December in Buffalo. Give me Buffalo by a lot if they're healthy. Moving on, Lions, Vikings. I thought the Lions were going to pull that out for a while there. I know they were up, I think, 10 points. I think I heard they were up 10 points twice and still managed to lose. Tough break for Dan Campbell, but I still think the Lions are pretty good. I have them ranked in the top half of my power rankings. I'm pretty sure I think I have them at 16. The Lions are pretty good. They're going to be able to score points on teams. I worry about their defense, but I think the Lions have what it takes to win shootouts. If that game is in Detroit, Detroit probably wins, but it was in Minnesota. Minnesota always plays well at home. And the Vikings have more playmakers on offense, so the Vikings won. Makes sense. And what I expected. Moving on. Sorry. My iPad's acting up. All right. Moving on. Ravens at the Patriots. I picked the Ravens to win this game. I did not expect them to go on the road and score 37 points and win by two possessions. Really impressive performance. Lamar Jackson is playing lights out right now. New England. I know Mac Jones got hurt during this game. I don't believe they have placed him on IR just yet. I wouldn't expect him to play this week against Green Bay, and it just leads me to my point. It's going to get worse before it gets better for New England, in my opinion. This is a 1-2 start. I don't see them beating, spoiler alert, I don't see them beating Green Bay this week, especially if Mac Jones doesn't play. So, Patriots are in trouble, but we already kind of knew that. Bengals at the Jets. Bengals get back on track. Go on the road, win by 2 possessions is a big deal. Jets, they get Zach Wilson back this week. That's all I really have to say. Eagles at the Commanders. Eagles look really impressive. I know if James was on the podcast, he would be taking a victory lap right now. I will say this, though. I'm a little hesitant with the Eagles because they played, I just gave Detroit a ton of praise, but it's still Detroit. They beat up a Minnesota team that Minnesota fans hate when I say this, but a Minnesota team that was coming off its Super Bowl win over Green Bay at home, and then they played a Washington team that's not that good. I had the Eagles winning 10 games in the preseason, and I might have had them going 3-0 at this point, maybe 2-1. So they're pretty much par for the course. The schedule's going to get tougher for them later on. But Eagles look good. Right? I will say with confidence, right now I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. Still a long way to go, though. Commanders, not good. Not good. Carson Wentz is struggling. O-line is struggling. They've given up 14 sacks the last 2 weeks. I think they're the team that gave up 14 sacks in the last 2 weeks. I like Ron Rivera, but I feel like his time's running out there. New Orleans at Carolina. Not a whole lot. I went out on a limb and picked Carolina to win this game, and they did. New Orleans feels like they're in trouble. They are a blown fourth quarter by the Falcons away from being 0-3. They lead the league in giveaways with 9. It's not looking good for New Orleans, in my opinion. They have a tough matchup this week against Minnesota and London. Again, another team. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Carolina. I still think Carolina's okay. I don't think they're that bad. They're 2 last-second field goals, I believe, away from being 3-0, which they were 3-0 last year to start the season and then fell apart late. It's still early, but Carolina looks better than what I had anticipated. Then to the matchup I was most looking forward to, Jacksonville and the Chargers. I picked the Chargers to win this game, and I was pretty confident in it. And they had a slew of injuries in this game. I know Justin Herbert was dealing with an injury. Joey Bosa left the game. J.C. Jackson has been hurt. Rashawn Slater got hurt during the game and is now out for the year. But Jacksonville easily looks like the most improved team in the league right now. And I texted James this week. I was like, is it an overreaction to say Jacksonville's the best team in the AFC South right now? And he said, I thought that after week 2, so no. So I look at the AFC South, and I know I just said it doesn't look that impressive, but Houston looks pretty bad, which we expected. Tennessee looks pretty bad, which I expected regression. I didn't expect it to look this bad. Indianapolis has underperformed. I look at Jacksonville, and I'm pretty impressed. I mean, they're close to being 3-0. They had a tough loss to Washington in week 1. They beat the doors off Indianapolis in week 2. Now they beat the doors off against the Chargers in week 3. It's amazing what good coaching can do for this team. I said it last year, actually. The Jaguars have drafted at the top of the draft for so long now. They have playmakers on this team. I thought if Trevor Lawrence could come in and play immediately like Andrew Luck, I didn't think he'd come in right away and this would happen. But if he played like Andrew Luck, the Jaguars are going to be a playoff team. Urban Meyer's gone. They hired Doug Peterson, who's a grown-up and a veteran head coach, Super Bowl winning head coach. And now you're seeing what happens when you have a quality coach. Jacksonville looks a whole lot better. That talent is flourishing under Peterson. And Trevor Lawrence is playing well. I think I read or saw today he has a passer rating of 103 right now. And then it's better because I think he had a passer rating of around 75 in week 1. So it's even better the last 2 weeks. I think the Jags are legit. I want to see what happens in these next few weeks. Chargers, same old with the Chargers. They're banged up. It's not looking good. I had high hopes for the Chargers this year. I like Justin Herbert. I like what they did this offseason. I respect it a lot, because the window to win with a talented quarterback on a rookie contract is limited. You only get 3 years, and this is year 3. It's really more like 4. But after this year, they got to sign him to an extension. Likely they will. But then the money's gone after that, and they're going to pay Justin Herbert a hefty amount, and they're 1-2, slew of injuries. They have a tough matchup. Well, I shouldn't say a tough matchup, but they have a difficult matchup this week. I think the Chargers are in trouble. Rams at the Cardinals, kind of a weird score. I haven't watched the game. From what I heard, the Rams controlled it, but it was still a one-possession game. Rams are still kind of subpar, but I would say they're probably the second best team in the NFC right now, although that's not saying a whole lot. Cardinals, not a whole lot to say with the Cardinals. They're just not a good team. Kyler Murray's not playing well. I've never been a believer in Cliff Kingsbury. Their roster is not that good. They have holes defensively. Their offensive line has holes. DeAndre Hopkins is still suspended for 3 more weeks. They have a tough matchup this week. I don't think it's going to get much better for the Chargers. Falcons at the Seahawks. I did not pick the Falcons to win this game, although I really wanted to. Falcons are pretty good. I shouldn't say pretty good, but the Falcons aren't that bad. They're proving me right. I said going into the season, a team that everyone is kind of counting out that I think is going to be better than people think is Atlanta. You could do a whole lot worse than Arthur Smith as your head coach and Marcus Mariota as your head coach. As your quarterback. Drake London looks good. This team still has a lot of holes, but they look all right so far. Or I shouldn't say all right, but they look better than I think we all anticipated. Seattle, week 1 feels like a long time ago. They lost week 2. They lost week 3. I think these last 2 weeks are more what I expected from Seattle. Then the game of the week, which is Green Bay and Tampa Bay. Somehow, some way, my Green Bay Packers found a way to win, although they tried to give it up. That felt like a big win for Green Bay. Obviously, it was a big win for Green Bay. But it just felt like a big win for this team and Matt LaFleur. After week 1, week 1 showed, and that's been the case with Matt LaFleur. If you punch Green Bay in the mouth, they don't really have an answer under Matt LaFleur. And that game against Tampa, they punched Tampa in the mouth, and they really needed a performance like that. They needed to go on the road and beat a really quality team. And, and I've heard all the excuses with Tampa that they were banged up, they didn't have anybody. It's not like Green Bay was picture perfect health. Christian Watson didn't play. Sammy Watkins didn't play. David Bakhtiari was in and out. Jair Alexander got hurt during the game. So spare me. It's not. And then their starting center got hurt during the game. So spare me. Like, I'm not saying Green Bay wasn't the healthier team. They were. But just give me a break. I'm tired of hearing the excuses. Tampa lost. Move on. Tampa, I think they're going to be fine. I worry about their offensive line. They keep losing guys on the offensive line. They're down, I think, 4 starters on the offensive line, and then we know the injuries they've had at wide receiver. Julio Jones was out. Chris Godwin was out. Mike Evans was suspended. But Evans is back. Godwin could show up any moment. Jones could show up at any moment. I think they'll be okay, but I worry about that offensive line because I'm not sure how much better it's going to get. A lot of their guys are on the IR for a long time. I think a few of them are out for the year. So, and that's the other. Green Bay dominated that matchup. Their defensive front dominated Tampa's O-line. If I'm Tampa, I'd be pretty concerned about that, but they should be fine. Defensively, they look awesome. They were healthy defensively. They've allowed, I think I read they were allowed like 9 points a game defensively. They're going to be fine. They're going to win 10 to 13 games. I'm not that worried about it. But this game might decide playoff seeding, and now Green Bay has the advantage. Sunday Night Football. I'll be honest, I didn't watch this game. I instead chose to watch House of the Dragon, which is still awesome. San Francisco, Denver. Score was 11-10. Weirdest score I think I've ever seen in professional football. Almost makes you ask who was pitching the game because it's so low scoring. But not a great game from Jimmy Garoppolo, who I just spoke very highly of a week ago when he took over for Trey Lance. But you saw in that game why the organization wanted to move on from him. He's not that good. You know, I think Kyle Shanahan covers up a lot of his deficiencies. And in that game, you saw a lot of them. I'm not going to overreact completely to San Francisco because we saw this last year. They started 1-2, and I actually think they started worse. I think they started 1-4, maybe 3-5, and found a way to win 10 games and then get to the NFC Championship. So I'm not going to panic with San Francisco. They lose this week. It's a problem, but I think they'll be fine. As for the Broncos have won the last 2 weeks, but do you really feel good about where your team stands if you're a Broncos fan? You lost week 1 to a team that really isn't that good. You barely beat a bad Houston team, and then now you beat San Francisco by 1 point at home, 11-10. Your offense is averaging 14 points per game when it was supposed to be really good. All I heard was how great their weapons are offensively. I heard how great their offensive line is. Now they had Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. All I heard was how great Denver was going to be this year, and I'm still waiting. Now, I'm not going to sit here and take a victory lap because I do think Denver's pretty good. I do like their weapons offensively. I do think their offensive line is suspect, but when you have Russell Wilson, you ought to be able to avoid getting sacked and pressured and all that because he can run. The match between Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson does not seem like it is meshing. They don't really have an identity on offense. Defensively, though, they've been pretty good. But offensively, they don't have an identity. I think Hackett wants to run the ball. Russell Wilson wants to do something else. He wants to cook, as they've said the last few years. But I think Denver's going to be okay. They're 2-1 right now. And they have a winnable matchup this week. It could be a whole lot worse for Denver, I'll say that. But it's hard to feel good about them right now, but I'm expecting it to get better between Hackett and Wilson, and then Denver offense will get going eventually. Monday Night Football, Dallas at the Giants. I might have to eat my words with Cooper Rush. I didn't think Dallas would be able to stay afloat without Dak Prescott, and Dallas is 2-0 without him so far. The Giants, I thought there was a chance things were getting better, but I was hesitant to really believe in this team because they had beat a down Tennessee team or a struggling Tennessee team, and then they beat a bad Carolina team, a subpar Carolina team last week. Then I was like, okay, we're going to find out just how good the Giants are this week against Dallas. And they didn't deliver. They scored 16 points. Daniel Jones struggled. The Giants still aren't very good. Like Chicago, I think their record isn't indicative of the team. I think the team is still pretty bad. So that is week 3 of the NFL, a crazy week 3 of the NFL. Let's go to college, where it was also a little crazy. Let me look at some of the top matchups. Georgia barely got by Kent State. I'm not worrying. Not barely got by Kent State. They won by 17, but I think the spread had to have been in the 20s or 30s. I'm not worried about that. Georgia's a really good team. They were sleepwalking. I'm sure they were looking ahead to next week. I don't know who they play, but I'm going to imagine it was a SEC opponent. We ought to be in conference play at this point. I think Georgia's going to be okay. I'm not too worried about it. Michigan barely got by Maryland. I picked Michigan to win and cover. That was probably dumb of me because Michigan has really, want to talk about sleepwalk. Michigan has sleepwalked through its schedule so far. Its out-of-conference schedule was Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn, I think, and they were never tested in either of those games. Maryland comes to town, a team with a pulse. I mean, they have a pretty good offense with Talia Tagovailoa and some good receivers. And they gave Michigan a game, and Michigan needed a wake-up call like that. They got Iowa this week. I wouldn't rule out the Hawkeyes, even though the Hawkeyes can't score points to save their lives, but Michigan needed a game like that. Clemson, Wake Forest. I don't know how Clemson's still ranked, I think they're still ranked in the top 5. Look, I just don't think Clemson's the same old Clemson. They were able to score points, but their defense, which is supposed to be really good and has been the staple of this program for the last almost decade, gave up 45 points to Wake Forest. And look, I like Wake Forest. Sam Hartman's a good college quarterback. Dave Clawson's a good coach. But you shouldn't be giving up 45 points to Wake Forest. I know, even though you had some injuries in the secondary. I think Clemson should be very fortunate that it won that game. But they got a tough matchup this week against NC State, and I'll get to that game in a minute here. Baylor beat Iowa State. I thought that was going to be a close game. I did pick Baylor, though, so I'm not surprised. Tennessee beat Florida. Florida hasn't been great, but we're seeing more just of the transition to Billy Napier. They're going to be fine. Tennessee looks really good. Hendon Hooker's really good. Tennessee can score just about on anybody. I've been impressed with them. Texas and Texas Tech. This is it's troublesome for Texas right now. Bijan Robinson, didn't play his best game, and I know Quinn Ewers is hurt, but that felt like a problematic game for Texas. They now fall to 2-2. They have my Mountaineers this week. If you lose to West Virginia at home, it's time to probably move on from Sarkisian. I was surprised that the program fired Tom Herman a couple years ago, and then they hired Steve Sarkisian. And I said at the time, this feels like a desperation move. You're trying too much to be like Alabama to the point that you're hiring a Saban assistant. Now, I will say, I got to eat some crow. I said I thought Texas was turning it around. This felt legit with the players that they had brought in, the transfers they had brought in, the recruits they had brought in. I still thought Sark knew what he was doing, but losing to Texas Tech is kind of inexcusable. Their defense was on the field for, I think I read 100 plays. Let me pull it up here. It doesn't say. But I believe it was for 100 plays. That's troublesome. Gave up 37 points. I know it was overtime, but gave up 37 points to Texas Tech on the field for 100 plays. I think I just looked at the time of possession. It was 35 minutes. Now you got a West Virginia team coming in there who, I know I'm biased. I don't think West Virginia is as bad as its record. I know that everyone's going to make fun of the loss to Kansas, but hey, the loss to Kansas doesn't look that bad right now. So we're going to find out That feels like a loser leaves town game in college football. Texas and West Virginia this week. Middle Tennessee State whooped up on Miami. I don't know what happened there. I didn't watch the game, but final score 45-31. Box score tells you the same kind of story. Let me look it up here. Middle Tennessee State had 500 total yards. They actually didn't run for that much, 99 yards, but they threw all over Miami for 408 yards. Miami won the time of possession, but Middle Tennessee State didn't even do well on third down, and they still were able to score 45 points. So it doesn't seem like a fluke there. I think Middle Tennessee had control of that game. Not good for, what's his name? Mario Cristobal in his first season at Miami, where I thought it might be a seamless transition. That is not the case. Oregon and Washington State. I didn't watch the game. Honest to goodness, I didn't watch any of these games. I was driving home from the beach to Birmingham. I wanted to go with the upset in this game. I wanted to go with Washington State. I changed my mind to Oregon at the last minute. And for a while there, I thought Washington State was going to win. They were up by like 2 scores in the fourth quarter. And then Oregon scores, I think it was something like 17 points. It was like 3 scores back to back. And then never looked back. So the Ducks pick up a big win there in the Pac-12. Trying to look at the rest. Let's talk about Arkansas A&M. That game changed once KJ Jefferson tried to dive from about the 5-yard line on the goal line, which is dumb. I said it while I was like, what the heck is he doing? He loses the ball. Texas A&M returns it for a touchdown. Game completely changed after that. I believe Arkansas was up 14-0, maybe 14-7 at the time of that fumble. So they were looking up to go 2 scores. And I think it was 14-7, yeah. And instead, A&M returns it, 99 yards. I think they missed the extra point, but pulls them 1. And then from there, they outscored them 10-7 and never really, looked back. Had complete control of the game. It felt like Alabama walked over Vanderbilt. Not really surprising. Gosh darn it, what is wrong with this thing? I keep pressing ads, and it drives me crazy. All right, let me go back to ESPN. Ohio State rolled Wisconsin 52-21. The spread of this game was like 19.5 points, and I was like, look, Ohio State's probably going to cover that. I'm not even sure Wisconsin can score 19 points against FBS opponent. So, Wisconsin, it ain't looking good. It ain't looking good. I've been a Paul Chryst fan, or I've respected him. Wisconsin does a lot of things right. It can't seem to get the offense right. I think everyone else has kind of lapped Paul Chryst when it comes to that. It's because Wisconsin can't score points. They don't have a quarterback. And that's been the case for about 3 years now. I wouldn't say it's time to move on from Paul Chryst, but I feel like it's time to address something. Let me look. Kansas State beat Oklahoma. I did not anticipate that. I thought Oklahoma would win. Although I believe I did pick Kansas State to cover. But that just shows how wide open the Big 12 is. I said it before the season. I was like, I could see 4 or 5 teams winning this conference. And I don't know who's going to finish. I don't know who's going to win the conference, and I don't know who's going to finish last in the conference. I thought it was going to be Kansas in the preseason, unless something crazy happens. I don't think that's going to be the case. Who, by the way, Kansas should be ranked. I just want to point that out to everybody. They should be ranked. It could be my Mountaineers. I don't know. I just watched West Virginia. I'm like, I don't think we're the worst team in the conference, but maybe we are. I don't know. We'll find out a lot this week. But Big 12, I don't know who's first. I don't know who's last. It's just a bunch of middle-of-the-road programs, in my opinion. Kansas State, though, has not dominated, but has played well in Norman in the past. I believe that was like their 3rd win in Norman in the last, or maybe it was just their 3rd win over Oklahoma in the last 4 meetings. I know they've won in Norman 3 or 4 times in the last decade. So they've always played well there. Chris Kleiman plays Oklahoma tough. Kansas State's, they were coming off a bad loss too. I probably should have figured that they would make this game competitive. USC, Oregon State. Now for this game, I'll be honest, I went out on a limb and picked Oregon State. I like the Beavers. I think his name is Jonathan Smith. Has done a really good job building that program. He inherited it. They were 1-11, and now they're competing with USC. USC though won the turnover battle 4-0. They were +4 in the turnover battle, won by 3. Not great. I wasn't far off with Oregon State. I picked them. I picked the Beavers to win. If not for 4 turnovers, they probably do win. They're really good on the offensive line. They have an offense that can score. I think they're a whole lot better than people think. USC though, hats off to Lincoln Riley and his staff. That was an impressive road win. Like I said, I think Oregon State's better than people think. So that was a huge conference win for them. And that'll about do it for college football. I think I've touched up on everything. I finished 8-4 in my college picks, which is the worst that I've done so far this season. I was 9-3, 9-3, 9-3, and 8-4. So yeah, speaking of picks, let's go ahead and get to it. Week 4, NFL. Dolphins at the Bengals. Right now it's Bengals -4. If Tua was healthy, I'd strongly consider the Dolphins, but I'm not convinced he is healthy. That injury looked scary, to say the least. It was a head injury. Short week. I usually don't pick these road teams to win on on these Thursday games because it's a short week and they have to travel. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I'm not super confident in that, though. Vikings at the Saints. This is another tricky one. This is a London game. London games are about like Thursday night games. They could go either way, except there's no home field advantage. So I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm going to go with the Vikings. They're the better team. They have the better quarterback. I think they have the better head coach. The Saints, like I said earlier, lead the league in giveaways. I don't think that's going to bode well for a game across the pond. So give me the Vikings. Browns at the Falcons. I want to go with the Falcons, but the Browns lead the NFL in rushing yards per game. They rush close to 200 yards per game. Atlanta's defense isn't very good against the run. They allow 4.8 yards per carry. This feels like a favorable matchup for the Browns. Give me the Browns. Commanders at Cowboys. I picked against the Cowboys the last 2 weeks. I've been proven wrong. I'm not doing it again. Give me the Cowboys. Seahawks at the Lions. I haven't really seen anything from Seattle since week 1 to make me think they're going to win this game. The Lions have been very competitive. Their offense can score points. I don't think the Seahawks can keep up. I'll go with the Lions. Titans at Colts. Tennessee leans a lot on Derrick Henry, but they haven't really gotten him going yet. I think his rushing totals in 3 games are like 82, 29, and 82. It's under 200 yards rushing in 3 games, which is uncharacteristic of Derrick Henry. Indianapolis's defense is really good against the run. They allow like 2.6, I think, yards per carry and less than 100 yards rushing per game. Feels like a favorable matchup for the Colts. I'll go with them. Bears at Giants. 2 teams that I don't buy their records. I don't think their records are as good as the product on the field. Home field, though, give me the Giants to win this game. I don't trust Justin Fields at all. Jags at Eagles. I really want to go with the Jags here. Not because I dislike the Eagles or don't believe in the Eagles, but because I'm that impressed with the Jags so far, and I think Doug Peterson's going to want revenge against his former team. I can't bring myself to do it. I'm going to go with the Eagles to win this game. They're deeper in the trenches. They have more quality players. Home field too. I'll go with Philly to win this game, but I think the Jags cover the spread, which right now is -6.5 or +6.5. Jets at Steelers. Mike Tomlin's really good when he has extra time to prepare. I think I saw he hasn't lost a game when he has extra time to prepare since 2016. At home, give me the Steelers, even though it's Zach Wilson's return. Bills at Ravens. I'm surprised the Bills are the favorite in this game. Right now, it's Bills -3. The Bills have a slew of guys on the injury report. I think they have 15 players on the injury report, and almost all of them are key contributors. That feels like a lot to overcome, and I'm sure like not all of those guys aren't going to play, and I'm not sure that all are going to play, so it's probably going to be a mixed bag of who's going to play and who's not. I'm going to go with Baltimore, though. This feels like a minor upset brewing. Chargers at the Texans. I'm going to give the Texans one more shot. Chargers are hurt. Their left tackle's out for the year. Joey Bosa was just put on IR. J.C. Jackson's hurt and limited in practice. Justin Herbert's limited in practice. Keenan Allen has been limited in practice. The Chargers are depleted. This is a road game. I don't trust Brandon Staley. I'm going to go with the Texans, although the Chargers are -5. But going out on a limb, I'm going to go with the Texans, kind of their last chance. But they haven't been playing horribly. Cardinals at the Panthers. Right now it's Panthers -1.5. Long road trip for Arizona. Haven't played well offensively. Kyler Murray hasn't played well. I think Carolina's the better team right now. I'm going to go, and they have home field. Give me Carolina. New England at Green Bay. Even if Mac Jones was healthy, I'd still go with Green Bay to win this game. New England is not dynamic enough on offense to go on the road and outscore Aaron Rodgers. And now you're asking potentially Brian Hoyer, to step in and outscore Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Bill Belichick's a great coach, but and I don't like picking against him, but this feels like a tough matchup for the Patriots to win. I'll go with the Packers. Broncos at the Raiders. Gosh almighty. I keep pressing ads on the ESPN app. Broncos at the Raiders. Like the Texans, I'm giving the Raiders one more shot. I think they're better than their 0-3 record. Denver has been very poor on offense. Like I said, averaging, I think, 14 points per game. I think the Raiders are better offensively. I don't think it's going to take a whole lot of points to win this game, going by the way Denver has played. At home, the Raiders are desperate. I'm going to pick them to win this game. Monday Night Football, Rams at the Niners. Don't be so quick to pick the Rams to win this game based on how the 49ers played last week. That's actually why I like the 49ers to win this game. They were pretty much embarrassed on national TV. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to have them more buttoned up this week. And on top of that, Shanahan has Sean McVay's number. I think he's won the last 6 meetings between these two teams. And I think he's 7-3 all time against McVay. Since 2017, games at home, San Francisco's the favorite. I'm going to go with the Niners. I think they bounce back. Chiefs at Bucks. Chiefs right now are -1. I don't like picking against Tom Brady, but I've seen nothing but from the Bucks offense that makes me think they're going to win this game. They're struggling. They do get Mike Evans back. They might get Chris Godwin or Julio Jones back. They're really good defensively, but their O-line is a problem. They haven't run the ball well. They're just a mess offensively, and I just can't bring myself to pick them. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. They're healthier, probably the better head coach quarterback combination. They're coming off a loss. I think they're going to be ready for this game. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs. And that'll do it for my NFL picks this week. Let me go to college, where I still have not picked for this week. I've given some picks, but not all. So we're starting with Friday. Washington at number 15, Washington at UCLA. Washington right now is favored -2.5. I'm going to roll with the Huskies. I really like the way Kalen DeBoer has that team playing. I haven't seen anything from UCLA. They haven't really been challenged yet. I think Washington is the better team, so I'll pick them to win. Michigan at Iowa. Michigan right now is -11. Something tells me Iowa is going to keep this game fairly close, but I don't think the Hawkeyes are good enough offensively. I'm going to go with Michigan. Kentucky at Ole Miss. Number 7, Kentucky at number 14, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is right now -7. Gosh, Vegas must know something I don't. I don't get that spread at all. I kind of have to see it first, though, but I'm going with Kentucky. I just don't buy Ole Miss. I don't think they're the 14th best team in the country. I don't buy their defense. I don't buy their, they haven't really played anybody if you go look at their schedule. So I just don't think Ole Miss is on the same level as Kentucky right now as a program. Kentucky, I think, has the better quarterback. I don't know about head coach, but again, I'm kind of going out on a limb here. I'll go with the Wildcats to win this game. Oklahoma at TCU. Number 18, Oklahoma at TCU. Right now, it's Oklahoma minus 6.5. Like Ole Miss, I don't buy TCU. I think that they have issues defensively still. I would expect a lot of points to be scored, but I'm going to go with the Sooners to bounce back. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Purdue at number 21, Minnesota. Minnesota right now is minus 12.5. Minnesota looks like the best team in the Big Ten West. They just destroyed Michigan State. I think PJ Fleck has that program rolling right now. I have no reason to pick against the Golden Gophers. And I've picked Purdue a couple times this year. I've been burned. I love Jeff Brom, but I can't do it anymore. Got to see it. Texas Tech at Kansas State. Right now it's K-State minus 8. Kansas State is ranked number 25. I think Kleiman is the better coach. He's definitely the more experienced coach. I'll go with the Wildcats. I'm not super confident in that, though. Oregon State at Utah. Number 12, Utah. Utah right now is minus 10. If this game was at home, I'd consider Oregon State. Like I said, I'm really high on the Beavers, but Utah's far better. They're better in the trenches. Give me the Utes. Number 9, Oklahoma State at number 16, Baylor. Right now it's Baylor minus 2. Like Ole Miss and some of these other schools, I don't buy Oklahoma State this year. I don't buy Spencer Sanders, who has historically been subpar against Baylor. I don't buy Oklahoma State. I don't buy their defense. Their schedule has been pretty weak so far. They haven't been challenged. I think Baylor's the better team in the trenches. At home, I feel pretty good about Dave Aranda and the Bears. Wake Forest, number 22, Wake Forest at number 23, Florida State. Right now it's FSU minus 7. I feel pretty good about the Seminoles. I believe they've had, I don't know about extra, actually I don't know about if they've had extra time to prepare, but they look really good. They look like one of the more improved teams in the country. I can't say they are the most improved team in the country, though, because I got to consider Kansas for that. But Florida State's been really good. If this was in Winston-Salem, it would be a different story, I think. I'd probably go Wake, but Tallahassee, hostile environment. Give me the Seminoles. Number 17, Texas A&M at Mississippi State. Right now, Mississippi State minus 4. A&M's coming off a big win and has more talent, but A&M has not put it together on both sides of the ball. They've struggled offensively. This offense is probably going to come down to which team can score more, and I think that's Mike Leach and Mississippi State. So give me the Bulldogs and an upset. I guess I'm going to change this up, I think, I don't think I have this as game of the week. So let me go back. Number 2, Alabama at number 20, Arkansas. Right now it's Bama minus 17. That number is absurd. I like Arkansas. I think that they are a dangerous team. I think Bama is in trouble because, this group has not played particularly well on the road, especially in the SEC, the last couple of years, or the last year or two. I shouldn't say they haven't played well. They've had their struggles on the road, as we saw against Texas a couple of weeks ago. The number is absurd, though. I think Vegas is begging people to take Arkansas on the points. I have a feeling Bama's going to click eventually. I don't know if it's this week, but I'll go out on a limb and say it is. So give me the Tide to win comfortably. So game of the week, number 10, NC State. I think I'm at game of the week. Hang on, let me count them up real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I always pick 12. Not sure why, just the number I arrived on. Number 10, NC State. At number 5, Clemson. Right now it's Clemson minus 6.5. I don't feel good about Clemson. I would hammer NC State plus 6.5. If the game was in Raleigh, I would really go with the upset. I wouldn't hesitate to go with the upset. Clemson's a hostile environment, but I think NC State is a much better defensive team. I don't buy Clemson's offense. NC State's good defensively. I think that they are going to give Clemson's offense a lot of problems. And then offensively, NC State hasn't been great, but I think they're just good enough to pull off the upset. So I'm going to go with the Wolfpack. Yeah. So those are my picks. That's football recap for this past week. There was something I wanted to touch up on. Oh, pop culture. Let's talk about the MCU. So I was scrolling through Twitter the other day, and I see a tweet from Ryan Reynolds saying, like, I've had a hard time keeping my mouth shut about this one. And I saw someone quote tweet it, which is why I saw it in the first place, saying, like, holy shit. And I was like, oh, Ryan Reynolds. And then I saw the emoji, and it was the two swords, cross swords emoji. And I was like, oh, shit, he uses that when it's referring to Deadpool. So I was like, this is the Deadpool announcement. So I tune in, and I thought it was just an update, and it was clearly a joke at first. He was like, we're working on the new Deadpool movie, and we don't have very many ideas. We got nothing, but we do have one. And then someone walks behind him, and at first I couldn't tell who it was until Ryan Reynolds says, hey, Hugh, do you want to play Wolverine one more time? And he just says, in his Australian accent, yeah, sure, Ryan. And it plays the Whitney Houston song, I Will Always Love You, which was originally Dolly Parton. Not many people know that. So I was like, holy shit, is Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine? Because you could convince me that was a gimmick. Or, just a gag. They're having fun with the fans who really want this. I really wanted this as a Marvel fan. And it wasn't too long after that the news outlets got a hold of it and confirmed, yeah, he's back as Wolverine, which is huge news. Because I thought he was done playing Wolverine. I really did think, I haven't seen the movie, but I really thought Logan was his send-off. And that wasn't the case. I really thought he was done. And this is the last ride. From what Reynolds and Jackman came out with another video today, and they hinted at how this is going to work. They said they're not touching Logan. Again, I haven't seen the movie. Logan is apparently set in 2029. I would imagine Deadpool 3 is going to be set closer to this time. And I don't know what it's going to entail, but it's clearly going to entail, Deadpool and Wolverine getting together. Something that I want to say they've had planned, but I really don't know. Reynolds and Jackman, I know they're really close. But this is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to this movie already. It's not coming out for 2 more years, though. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be huge. I'm just excited. I was really excited for the Hugh Jackman announcement. I wanted to see him, as the MCU's Wolverine. I didn't think it would happen, though, and here he is, although I don't think it's for the long term. I've already seen rumors from fans saying, he's going to be the MCU's Wolverine. He's going to be back for, 10 more years. And I'm like, I don't think that's the case. I think y'all need to temper your expectations because Hugh Jackman is 50. I'm sure he wants to do other things. I'm sure he wants to see his kids grow up. I would not bank on this. I do believe this is a one-time thing for Hugh Jackman. So that was a big announcement. I'm trying to think of what else. House of the Dragon still really good. Rings of Power, finally. Like after that 3rd episode, I thought, okay, I see where this is going. And then I thought they took a huge step back in episode 4 to the point where I was like, I don't think this show's going anywhere. And then episode 5, like episode 3, I was like, okay, I see where we're going now. We're getting some momentum. Let's do this thing. We got 3 episodes left. Hasn't been the best first season, but I think it's heading in the right direction now. House of the Dragon, though, fantastic. I continue to be impressed with House of the Dragon. I keep expecting a fall off, and we're not getting it. So, yeah, I'm excited. Wrap this up quicker than I usually do. But yeah, that's been football this week. That's been Solo Shane this week. Be sure to like and subscribe the video. Turn the notifications on, whatever. I'm going to try to get James back eventually. Hopefully next week I can also go to 2 shows a week, or maybe even 3 shows. I won't get ahead of myself, though. So, yeah. I'll see y'all later.